for people who are nervous about AI, I would recommend that you think about all the things that we can do that make us unique and continue to build those skills, because let's be honest, those are the hardest part of the research process anyway.
So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about the elephant in the room, the thing that everybody's talking about, and that is the integration of UX research and AI. What are your thoughts on that?
So this is a pretty broad thing. So I'm going to start with AI technologies and how research can support developing AI product. It's a pretty huge research opportunity. We saw this with the rise of VR, mixed reality, or smart glasses. These are all things that are new technologies that require new interaction patterns, and AI is no different. But like all technologies, it's like really important to recognize what its limitations are and make those limitations visible to the end user. And design and research actually have a really strong role to play in that as we deliver more and more AI products to market. How do we make AI decision-making more visible to the end user so that we can build trust in these technologies and build engagement over time? That's a really thorny UX problem that I think is going to be really interesting to see how that evolves over the years as we continue to invest in building out that technology and accordingly. I saw this when I was in IC. One of the products I worked on was actually an algorithm. And what I did is I did a lot of field research to determine how we can weigh variables within that algorithm. And it was a black box algorithm, so we weren't always sure what the output would be. But that was one of the things we really struggled with, is the end user interacting with this algorithm would be given a decision, the output, and not recognize how it came to that decision. How can we build more affordances into the UI to demonstrate that? And we're just seeing the same thing with AI. And so it's just a continuous evolution as we continue to bring new products to market. When it comes to AI and research and how we as researchers can leverage AI technologies in our own work, the jury's still out personally. I've seen ways where I've found it to be useful in building out decks. Just sometimes you get in your head and you're using the same jargony language. And I'm like, I know this isn't going to land. How do I make this simple? ChatGPT is really good at simplifying language, summarizing information, etc. As once you have a final deliverable in place, you finished your analysis, super useful. When we're talking about like AI helping in identifying themes and affinity mapping or actually running interviews on your behalf, I think that's where it gets a little bit more complicated. I've seen those technologies out there in the world, and I personally have not had enough experience working with them to say, yes, this works, or no, it doesn't. I think it's something that we all should do our due diligence to continue exploring and testing the limits of, but not something we should necessarily be reliant on until we learn more. I think this also like begs the question, say these AI technologies are good enough to run interviews on our behalf and do all of the synthesis and all that. Where does that leave us? You just have to think about the hardest parts of the research process. The hardest parts of the research process was never running the research. Never. It's always framing the study, gathering requirements from stakeholders, integrating their assumptions and biases into our work. When delivering the insights, making sure we're doing so in a way that ties back to the business problem as well as the user problem. Acting as consultants and activating those insights across the organization. That's the value that we provide. And that is something that AI is ever going to be able to do, because you have to have the soft skills of understanding where your organization is at and where your stakeholders are at and what your goals are, and balancing those priorities against each other, facilitating trade-off discussions. That is something that is very human in my mind. And so I would really like, for people who are nervous about AI, I would recommend that you think about all the things that we can do that make us unique and continue to build those skills, because let's be honest, those are the hardest part of the research process anyway.
Thinking about working on a project end to end, we take for granted all of that stakeholder management, gathering the context just to build out a research plan. Like you said, those biases and assumptions and navigating those and making sure we're addressing their ask without botching the whole study. So thinking about that end-to-end process and what actually it entails, you're correct. The actual conducting the research, quite small.
We have a lot of tools that have come to life over the years to help facilitate that as well, that are not AI driven, but change the game for us and help us move more quickly and better. So everything from interview transcription to automatic just scheduling tools. When you upload your calendar, a participant uploads their calendar, you find that magic time where you both can connect.
Yeah, that's true. It used to be called technology. Now there's AI.
Yeah, my hope is that it just helps it accelerate the more manual tasks so that we can invest more time in activating our work and really making it a part of our organization's fabric, creating shared understanding of where customers are, what their needs are, what the market opportunities are, etc.
Look, talking about the future a little bit, tell me, Nisreen, what do you hope that the future of user experience research is or entails?
There's this tension between like some teams where you see folks specialize more and more and some folks where they're generalizing more and more, perhaps to reduce costs, maybe for another reason. But back in the day, everyone was kind of a generalist, so to speak. You see this sort of dynamic where we went from generalist to specialist to some people branching out to becoming generalists again. I think as we think about the future of research, I want us to all come forward, no matter whether we feel like we're specialists and generalists, and truly engage and partner with each other. I think as we specialize, sometimes you see natural tensions rise between specialties. We talked about the differences and similarities between market research and UX research, for example. Teams that should be best friends sometimes aren't. But I see that happening also with design and UX research in some instances, or product and UX research. And I want to make sure that as we all continue to evolve in our discipline and become more attached to the value that we ourselves provide, that we also remember the value that everyone around, and that at the end of the day, it's going to take all of us to deliver something that's going to be truly meaningful to our customers and also deliver business value and keep our company running, right? And so I want to make sure that we don't get caught in this view where what I do is important and put those blinders on and forget that really the magic happens when we compromise and we talk about things about decisions on a spectrum and trade-offs versus my way or your way. I think there's just so much opportunity to go a layer deeper and be like that much better as a team, as well as like the products that we produce when we're truly partnering and empathizing with each other.
That makes complete sense. We think about, like you mentioned, very similar disciplines, but how are we collaborating well with our partners in these journeys?
Yeah, it's like easy to like get caught up in like what you need to do and what you need to deliver against and what's meaningful to you, without remembering that others are incentivized by other things. Maybe your product managers are being held accountable to certain metrics and delivering against those metrics every quarter or every year. Perhaps your design partners are held accountable to a different set of standards or expectations than you are as a researcher. Recognizing that and knowing that changes how people show up at work is important so that you find a way to achieve something that everyone can truly contribute to.
Check out all my interviews with industry leaders on BlatzChatz.